say the same thing before I fought with Golovkin. No, he's a monster. He's gonna knock out Canelo. He's this and that. At the end of the day, it's not the same. Being in the ring with other fighters like being in the ring with me. It's different. Benavidez is a good fight. It's a good fighter, but I mean, man, I've been in the ring in hard fights with every single good fight.
For 5 long years, the boxing world was told this room would never exist. We were told the contracts were impossible. We were told the purse demands were too steep. We were told that the undisputed king of super middleweight boxing simply had nothing left to prove. Meanwhile, the baddest boogeyman in the sport was left screaming into the void. But off camera, behind closed doors, away from the sanitized press releases and orchestrated media scrums, the breaking point finally arrived. No security guards lining the hallway. No promoters jumping in to diffuse the tension. Just 2 men, 2 massive egos, and 4 years of built-up venom condensed into one room. Look me in the eyes, Saul. Look at me. You ran out of excuses. You ran out of weight classes. You ran out of people to hide behind. You talk too much, kid. You've done nothing in this sport. I built this empire. You think you're a monster. You're just another paycheck waiting to get schooled. What you are about to see isn't a scripted promo. It isn't a friendly promotional sit-down. This is the moment the most protected fight in modern boxing history collapsed under the weight of sheer hatred. The ultimate face-to-face breakdown that the networks almost refuse to air. Welcome back to the channel, because today we are breaking down every single second of the most explosive, heated, and raw confrontation in boxing history. Strap in, because this gets dirty fast. To understand the sheer magnitude of the air in the studio, you have to understand the toxic history that brought Saul Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez to this exact table. In modern boxing, fights of this scale rarely happen when they should. They get marinated, delayed, tied up in promotional politics, or buried under absurd purse demands. For 4 straight years, the boxing public pounded on the door of boxing's elite, demanding one thing: Canelo versus Benavidez. Think back to how we got here. Saul Alvarez wasn't just a world champion. He was the undisputed king of 168 pounds. He unified the entire super middleweight division in a whirlwind 11-month span, tearing through Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant like a wrecking ball. He had reached a level of stardom where he controlled the board. He dictated the network, the venue, the gloves, the date, and most importantly, the opponent. Canelo was the cash cow of combat sports, and with that power came the luxury of choice. Meanwhile, residing in the same weight class was a young, relentless force of nature. David Benavidez, a phenom who became the youngest super middleweight champion in boxing history at just 20 years old. A fighter possessing a freakish combination of length, ironclad stamina, and an overwhelming, soul-crushing output. Benavidez wasn't just winning fights. He was breaking men. He wasn't outpointing opponents. He was systematically dismantling their willingness to compete. Yet, despite holding the WBC interim title, despite being the mandatory challenger, for years, Benavidez found himself on the outside looking in. Every time his name was brought up in Canelo press conferences, the response from the king was cold, dismissive, and at times utterly indifferent. Canelo told the world, "He brings nothing to the table." He told reporters, "I fought everyone. I earned the right to fight whoever I want." And then came the infamous quote that set the boxing world on fire. "If a promoter wants me to fight Benavidez, it's going to take $150 million. That line sent shockwaves through the sport. To the die-hard fans, it felt like confirmation of the unthinkable. Canelo Alvarez, a man who fought Floyd Mayweather at 23, who stood toe-to-toe with Gennady Golovkin for 36 brutal rounds, who dared to go to light heavyweight against Dmitry Bivol, was pricing himself out of a fight. The narrative took hold. Critics claimed Canelo saw something in Benavidez's size, hand speed, and physical durability that presented a risk too high for any reward. Benavidez didn't stay quiet either. He went on a media campaign that bordered on psychological warfare. Every interview, every podcast, every post-fight ring speech became a targeted missile aimed at Canelo's legacy. He called him a duck. He called him a protector of a fake crown. He accused the legend of hiding behind sanctioning bodies and corporate politics. When the boxing world finally reached its breaking point, when the pressure from fans, international media, and Saudi Arabia's boxing powerhouse became too deafening to ignore, the matchmakers didn't just book a venue. They knew that before these two ever stepped into a ring, they had to sit in a room without their entourages, without their trainers, and without their promoters. Which brings us to this exact sit-down. The moment the studio lights flickered on, you could feel the density in the air. This wasn't a standard pre-fight press tour. Canelo walked into the studio flanked only by his security detail, wearing a tailored tracksuit, his body language oozing cold, calculated arrogance. Seconds later, Benavidez stepped into the light, broad-shouldered, towering over Alvarez, wearing a smirk that practically screamed, "I finally got you where I want you." The director called for quiet on set. The producers stepped back, and for the first time in 5 years, Saul Alvarez and David Benavidez were trapped in the same space, forced to look each other dead in the eye. The moment both men settled into their seats, the dynamic was instantly captivating. Pay attention to the subtle cues here, because body language in boxing reveals everything before a single punch is ever thrown. Canelo sat back deeply into his chair. His posture was defensive yet regal. Arms crossed tight across his chest, legs crossed, chin tilted upward. This is the classic posture of a king. Defending his domain, projecting absolute authority while keeping his emotional guards high. Benavidez, on the other hand, was operating on raw kinetic energy. He sat right on the edge of his cushion, leaning forward, resting his forearms on his knees, invading Canelo's personal space without physically touching him.
Defeated Plant in March of this year.
Yeah.
So his date for mandatory position is March 2024.
Wow. All right. So, but Canelo has the option to take that earlier. That's
Yeah.
like,
The host barely had time to ask his opening question before Benavidez took control of the room. "You know why we're sitting here, right? Because you couldn't run anymore. You tried moving to light heavyweight. You tried taking fights nobody asked for. You asked for $150 million because you thought nobody would pay it. But guess what, Saul? The check got signed. Now what? What's the excuse today? You think I'm scared of you? Look at me. Look at my resume, David. I've been fighting Hall of Famers since you were in middle school. I fought Floyd Mayweather. I fought Cotto. I fought Shane Mosley. I fought Bivol at 175. I fought Golovkin 3 times. Who have you fought? Who is your best win? Caleb Plant? Demetrius Andrade? You beat guys I already broke. You ride my name to get attention because without my name, nobody knows who the hell David Benavidez is. That line hit the studio like a thunderbolt. Canelo went straight for the jugular, challenging Benavidez's entire legacy and framing him as a clout chaser, living off the residual wake of Alvarez's greatness. But watch Benavidez's reaction carefully. He didn't get rattled. Instead, his eyes widened and he leaned in even closer. You keep bringing up your past because you know your present is running out. You fought Golovkin when he was getting older. You took fights where you had every advantage. But with me, I'm bigger than you. I'm faster than you. I throw more punches than you. And I'm in my absolute prime. You know what happens when I put my hands on you? You can't outwork me, Saul. You're going to tire out like you always do. And I'm going to drown you. You throw combinations in the air, David. You leave your head right on the center line. You think you have power. You haven't felt Mexican power yet. I'm going to hit you in the body, and by round 6, you're going to realize there's a difference between being a world champion and being a legendary fighter. You're a boy trying to do a man's job. What made this face-to-face so profoundly heated wasn't just the raised voices. It was the profound, unyielding pride of two Mexican warriors competing for the soul of Mexican boxing. In Mexico, boxing isn't just a sport. It's a culture, a religion. For over a decade, Canelo Alvarez has been the undisputed torchbearer of Mexican boxing greatness. But Benavidez represents a new generation, a ruthless, volume-punching machine who believes Canelo has become too corporate, too comfortable, and too soft. As the interview progressed, the host attempted to steer the conversation toward tactical preparation, but neither fighter was interested in talk of training camps or game plans. The dialogue descended into pure personal hatred. Canelo called Benavidez unprofessional, pointing directly to Benavidez's past struggles with weight cuts and out-of-ring missteps that stripped him of his title in the past. Canelo looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You lost your belt on the scale. Not in the ring. You don't respect the sport. You respect the money. I respect the glory. That's why I am who I am. And that's why you will always be under me." Benavidez's response was ice cold. "Keep holding on to that belt like it's your security blanket, because when we step in that ring, there are no referees to save your legacy. You're going to have to stand there and take everything I give you." By the time the producer tried to wrap up the interview for the final face-off, the atmosphere was so volatile that security personnel quietly moved to the edge of the frame, ready to dive in if someone threw a punch. Now, let's strip away the trash talk, the bad blood, and the drama, and look at this fight from a purely tactical perspective. Why is Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez considered by every major boxing analyst to be the ultimate stylistic collision course? Because both men possess elite skill sets that directly exploit the other man's structural weaknesses. Let's start with David, the Mexican monster Benavidez. Benavidez is an anomaly in the super middleweight and light heavyweight divisions. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with a 79-inch reach, he possesses the physical frame of a light heavyweight or cruiserweight, but he fights like a Mexican brawler down in the trenches. His greatest weapon isn't just his power. It's his extraordinary, suffocating punch volume. While the average super middleweight throws roughly 40 to 50 punches per round, Benavidez routinely averages 70 to 80. He doesn't throw single power shots. He throws fluid, devastating 5-, 6-, and 7-punch combinations. He uses a long, blinding jab, not just to score points, but to blind his opponent's vision while he sneaks heavy left hooks into the body and right uppercuts through the guard. More importantly, Benavidez utilizes a high guard pressure system. He walks opponents down, takes their best shots on his elbows and arms, and traps them against the ropes. Once an opponent's back touches the ropes, Benavidez unleashes a barrage of continuous, non-stop violence. Now, why does this present a massive problem for Saul Canelo Alvarez? Throughout his
We know David Benavidez has been campaigning to get an opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez. I saw a headline that stated that, Canelo Alvarez is going to be mandated. Should he be victorious this Saturday? Obviously, that's putting the carriage before the horse. But if he's victorious this Saturday, does the winner of this fight inherit David Benavidez as a mandatory challenger?
Benavidez is the mandatory for the WBC, and the date for mandatory is March. So the winner of the fight, if it's Charlo, he will decide if he remains in super middle, goes back to super welter. But
career, Canelo's greatest strength has been his elite counterpunching, upper body head movement, and sheer explosive power. Canelo is a master of slipping punches by millimeters and returning fire with devastating hooks to the liver and overhand rights that end fights in an instant. However, if you look back at the fights where Canelo faced genuine difficulty, his bouts against Dmitry Bivol, his first fight with Gennady Golovkin, and even early rounds against Caleb Plant, a clear blueprint emerges.